Hello everyone and welcome to this very special video where we're joined by 4 legends of the Premier League clubs we partner with here at eToro. We've got Leon Osman from Everton, Matt Jarvis from West Ham, Ray Parlour from Arsenal and Mark Bright from Crystal Palace. We're going to talk about investing and how it rolls over into the world of finance and football, and we'll also talk a little bit about the Euros as well. Now we're at the end of the season and in the build-up to that. Leon, we will come to you first and then everyone else can jump in as well. Leon, why is it important that clubs plan for the long term in regards to their squads, clubs and supporters?
Oh, I mean, that's pretty easy, that one, to stay ahead of the curve, to make sure that they're always competing at the top level. And when you're talking about planning ahead, you're talking about players, you're talking about development of young players, you're talking about looking at who you're possibly going to bring in with regards to players, but you're also talking about off the field and commercially and sponsorships and deals moving forward, because it takes a lot to make sure that the club is moving in the right direction and to make sure that you're planning ahead, because if you don't and you stagnate and you stay still, other clubs will very much pull away from you and take over you, and you'll find yourself in a tricky position. So it's a vital thing that you do.
Yeah, and Matt, anything that you would add to that?
Well, no, I think, even Everton now, the new stadium, West Ham have moved into a new stadium. I think, that side of things is huge to prolong the club and the history and everything that goes alongside it. And I think the fans, I think, is a huge part of that. I think given them the experience and, different activities that they can do going into games or during games, I think that's something that will maximise everything with the whole view of watching the game.
Yeah. Ray, are you impressed with what's gone on at Arsenal over the last few years, getting the fans back on board?
It's very important as well for players. I mean, you see players who've already got 3-year contracts left. They're going in saying, right, we're going to, up to 5 years now. That's the plan. They want to keep the group of players together. When you've got a winning formula or a formula that's going to push you really close, then you've got to try and keep the players together as long as you can. So that's why they come in, and Odegaard's just signed, Saka's just signed a new deal. All these guys who are going to be a big part of the future for Arsenal Football Club, and that's why they want them on long contracts. When probably Arsene Wenger's reign, there's a lot of players getting to their last year of their contracts, and the players have got all the power.
Yeah.
They've got the power to say, well, no, we don't want to sign another contract. We're going to walk away on a free transfer. Then the clubs are in a bit of a situation. So that's all planning behind the scenes, Edu and people like that, to say, right, this is the group of little players we want, and we've got to add on to that as well. And that's what they'll be planning now for next season. As Leon says, the sponsorship is very important as well. That keeps clubs going. You can see it all around the stadiums now when the match days, and that is very important. The financial side of that coming into the clubs can go out and strengthen players.
Yeah, for sure. Mark, anything that you would add for that? I mean, Palace at the moment, do you feel they're heading in the right direction long term with the planning for everything like that too?
Yeah, obviously since Steve Parish took over the club, obviously with the American investment as well, you look on that board there and think we're the smallest club, and it's important for us to increase revenue streams. Yeah. So Steve, we've got a £90 million stand, which we're obviously hoping to start next year, and that will obviously bring in more revenue for us. But it's just about trying to stay at the level of the Premier League. You can see teams get in and go out, and we're trying to stay there. I think this is 11 seasons, maybe 12. So it's the longest period in my knowledge that the club have been in the top flight, and it's just difficult because as much as you try and plan, somebody has a good season, off they go. Somebody else has a good season, off they go. So we've just had an excellent finish to the season with Oliver, the new coach. And now we're thinking, can you keep Michael Elise? Can you keep Eze? Can you keep Tariq Mitchell, Mark Gay, Anderson? So if you can keep all of them, it's exciting times for Palace fans for next year. But if you don't, I mean, you've got to go and recruit.
Yeah.
And the most important thing in football at this moment in time is recruitment.
Yeah, no, it seems that between all 4 of you, you've had about 2,000 club appearances. So you obviously have had very successful careers, but early on your development would have been crucial. Leon, how important is it that when you have the young players that come through, that the clubs do spend a lot of time on their development, and why is it important?
Well, it is important. There's no doubt about that. But clubs can look at it selfishly, which the majority do, that we want to develop this young player to grow into an asset for us, whether that be an asset for the club themselves, as in they're going to see the development of this young player. They're going to show them the way that the club likes to play, so that when they do develop and step in to the first team, that they are a top player competing for a place. Or you'd say that, you know, when that development comes through, that maybe see it as an asset to sell on, and suddenly the club is making money off seeing this development through. And that's the way the clubs look at it. But I also think it's important to develop players just to make sure that we're all making better players year on year. We're not just leaving it up to one or two clubs to develop top quality players. It's important across the board that all clubs are trying to give young players a chance to be the best that they can be, good quality coaching. And that way you're seeing young players emerge that can go on and represent their country, whether it be for the club, through the club that are developing them or not. But as I said, it's a good way of trying to save money as well for a club. The fact that they can take a young talented player and really bring them through, and as I said, either play them in their own first team or use them as an asset to sell them.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, how important is an academy for you and a club? Is it vital?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, you know, West Ham's the past, their academy's been incredible, and that's the pathway that you need and that you want for your club, your players. That, as you know, as Leon said, you train them, you want them to develop as how your first team is, and how that platform can go from there to then the 21s or something, then to get into the first team. And I think the academy is hugely important. I think it gives them a mindset, I think, as well, which actually nurturing them, and you know, because a lot of these players will go on journeys, they might not make it to the first team, but actually giving them a platform to actually learn, to actually deal with a lot that goes on in and around the football world. So academies have a massive part to play, and financially as well. I think, you know, it costs a lot to run the academies, but the actual other side of things, you know, as you say, if you're developing players and they do end up in the first team or they get sold, it's a huge financial part as well.
Yeah, massive incentive. Ray, what about you? I mean, coming through the academies, do you think as much has changed since?
It's a little bit different to when I was coming through. I mean, we used to clean the boots and dressing rooms and all that sort of stuff, but that give you a little bit of character to make it get to that bigger stage, you know. They don't do that now, I should imagine, but you still got that, you know, they've seen players come through, Smith Rowe, back Saka, and, you know, going to that first team squad. So it gives them everybody a little bit of hope, and you've got to just keep working hard as a youngster. I mean, facilities is all there. Yeah. You know, the Arsenal training ground's got everything you need, a lot better than probably when a lot of us guys played. So, you know, it's all down to your ability. Of course it is, but it's all down to your hard work as well. I think that's, if you said, what would you rather have, ability or the mindset to work hard every day? I think working hard will get you further than ability, because, you know, that is so important in football, that you keep working hard. I played with people like Dennis Bergkamp, who had all the ability, but you see how hard he worked on that training field, and even after training, on his own, practicing. So you've got to have that mindset as well. But academies are very important. I can see that, like, the smaller clubs' academies might be a little bit more difficult. I remember we had the Huddersfield chairman on, and he said, "Ray, we spend £3 or £4 million on an academy, but if our players are any good, Manchester City, Manchester United, Liverpool, they're going to just come and take them away." What we do now, we haven't really got an academy, but we go back to Liverpool, Manchester City, when they don't make it at the level they need to, and they can fit into our level. So I can understand both ways, but, you know, that's what you've got to make that big decision. But certainly in the bigger clubs, if you can get people coming like Foden and Saka, you know, that's unbelievable, really.
Great investment. Mark, are you proud of the work Palace are doing? I mean, what's the stat about Premier League players in South London?
I think there's more Premier League players from South East London area than any other area, so Liverpool, Manchester, anything like that, Newcastle, in the Premier League. It's a great catchment area, everybody knows that. We've just completed and opened a £30 million academy, and it's fantastic in the area we are, the size of it. And I think Steve Parish's hopes were a bit like Barcelona's. You want 5 year homegrown, mixed with, you know, 6, 7, you buy. And the more players you can bring through, the more money you save on the transfer fees, the more money can go into development of the stand, etc. So the academy is really important. We've particularly been really lucky at our academy that quite a few have come through. We use Aaron Bissaka as the last one. He came through as a winger. They moved him to right back. And right before everybody's eyes, he got in the first team, stayed in the first team, and got sold for 50 million to Manchester United. So we say to the young ones, you saw what happened to Aaron, you were in the club. This isn't something that happened in my day, in 1980s. This happened right under your nose. So you've seen what can happen at this football club. If you do well, we can't hold you, we can't keep you. And we understand our position in the market.
Yeah, well, it's massive important, I guess, as well, with the academies and how clubs allocate their capital, just like it is in the investing world. Mark, we'll stay with you for this question. On the field, when things started heating up and emotions were high, how did you remain focused on the game? Was it always easy to do so?
You're professionals, aren't you? I mean, I got all my hands up, 3 sendings off in 500 games. It's all right. But no, obviously you don't win every game unless you play for one of the big teams. You know, the percentage is you're not going to win every game. You just try and compete and you know, stick to the game plan. Obviously Steve Coppell was sort of like, when I first went to Palace, he sort of like had a game plan. This is how we play, this is what we do. And basically we were quite long ball and direct, playing to the strikers. So we were kind of, we punched a little bit, which we've always done and have to do now. We had some great times and got to FA Cup finals and finished 3rd in 91, which is incredible thinking now. So I think that was probably my most successful year as a team. So I talked to some of the players about it now. We couldn't have done any better. That was the best we could have done. Everyone delivered. We worked with a small squad, maybe 15, 16 players, and nobody seemed to get injured. And that was it. That was the best we could do. So we had a game plan going into every game with Steve Coppell, and you stayed focused on that game plan and then just try and implement. But at times we didn't happen. We went to Anfield and lost 9-0. So lost the focus and concentration.
Well, it shows the importance of having the strategy and to finish 3rd in that season. Incredible.
Yeah,
really.
For us, it was the best we could have done.
For sure. Ray, keeping emotions in check. How did you find that? Okay,
it is difficult because you're playing for your club, and you know when you come against a very good club against you, and you start, you know, leaving a few tackles in, they leave a few. It does spill over some. You see managers lose it sometimes on the side. You know, that's how emotional the game is, and. But you've got to have good people in the team and leaders. You know, you can't just have your captain sorting it out. You've got to have different parts of the pitch where you can understand it. But you know, I think it happens in every single season where there's a little bit of barge. But you got to try and deal with it. That's the hard bit. But
would you prefer those games that had a bit of more of a needle?
I certainly do. Yeah. I like the old needle games. I think they're great. I think they're great to play in as well, to be fair. I mean, the fans probably, if you ask any fans, neutral fans now, what games you would rather watch? It's definitely a little bit different era, and where you could probably leave a tackle in and say, you could probably do 3 and then you get booked. But that's the era you're in now.
Back in your day, you could get away with 3.
You could actually tackle from behind. I mean, that was legal.
Being a centre forward, it must have been a nightmare because you know you're going straight through you're the back, and you
Adams, Keogh,
and all you do is say it's my first tackle. Okay, no more. But he's getting stretched off. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit different that era, but. As I said before, you've got to have a game plan going out, and it doesn't always work out as bright as it says there. It can go wrong sometimes, and that's when you can lose your head. That's where you've got to keep calm and try and... One thing about our team, we had 4 good strikers. You know, when I played, we had Carnu, Wiltord, Henry and Bergkamp. And at times, Wenger, who was chasing a goal, we put all 4 of them on. And you had a chance of getting back in the game. And that's the difference. You've got to have good players off the bench as well to try and help you.
Right, he'd be well pleased with getting a mention there.
Oh, right. Well, Wright just left by then, didn't he? Wright left about 98, but Wright was unbelievable as well.
Incredible.
You can't play a game really without emotion. No. You never play a game without emotion. You'll never play in a game where everything goes perfect as well. There'll be something that happens. It's about how you use your emotions, really, isn't it? It's about keeping control. If you lose your head, you're going to make poor decisions. You're going to make, as I said, you'll choose the wrong option, maybe in a pass or with a tackle, or you'll go flying into somebody that you really shouldn't. And it's about just keeping them just about in check, where you can use them to play better without them taking control of what you're doing. But I don't think any of us will have played a game without using and being able to use our emotion, because I always think that your emotion is what makes you a better player. How you thrive on it, how you can use it to go that extra half a yard, or to be more precise trying to put a ball in a top corner or something like that. And I think emotions are important to football. but I said they can't get the better of you.
No, that's it. I guess you've got to be able to control it. And Matt, obviously, been at West Ham, you'd have played in loads of London derbies. Would they have been any different in the way that the manager might have prepped for them, considering the rivalry of the fans? Were they like extra special, do you think, in that way?
Absolutely. I think as soon as you go to as soon as I come to West Ham, it was, you get pinpointed games that these are the games that the fans. It's not necessarily the manager and the players. It's the fans, and you certainly know what games they are. And the build up to them is very similar with the manager. Like Sam Allardyce everything was drawn out. He knew exactly what we wanted to do, but. As you're getting closer to that, it's the interviews, it's the the media coverage, it's the fans that are leading up to the game, and as you say, I think the actual excitement from the fans and the players does spill over. I think, we're all human. You're going to make mistakes, but I think it's the experience. Once you've played and you've been in these games, you then have that experience of knowing what it feels like in the games where, someone has left a tackle on you and you've clocked it and you remember and you think, okay, well, next time, but I can't actually, I know what happened last time. Someone got sent off, or we lost the game because someone got sent off. So you try and have to keep your cool, but some players actually need that to stimulate them to actually get them up for the game. Other players don't. Other players need to be a bit more calmer, but I think that's massively.
I think me and Matt, being small players on the pitch, couldn't always let our emotions get away from us with some of the big guys we were up against. So it was a little bit maybe different from them who could really go and toe to toe with people.
I could run away.
Yeah. With the manager for like a North London derby or Merseyside derby, would they approach it much differently, or would they actually try to keep it as similar as possible?
I think you can't approach it any different.
Yeah.
It's another big game. Every point matters, and if you start approaching it bigger, like if it's a big cup game, or if you do something different, what you're not used to, or you sometimes can overthink games. So I think Arsene Wenger was very good at that. He'd always do exactly the same as we're playing
another game.
A normal league game. If it was an FA Cup final, we'd approach the game exactly the same. Where I played in '93. And we went in a hotel for 3 days where you're just sitting in a hotel, but you're thinking about the game more. Some players can freeze then. So he tried to keep it exactly the same routine. And really, when you're getting ready for the game, you treat it as the same routine as well. You've got habits you do before game, and you try and stick with that, even though it is a bigger game than normal.
Players are creatures of habits, though, aren't they? They love routine. They love the same everything.
So regimental football.
Absolutely.
It's what to do every day as well.
But it's so similar for investing or trading. You've got to have a routine. You've got to stick to it. And the moment you go away from that, that's when mistakes.
Obviously, my routine's not very good then.
We'll work on it.
I still think
I've got to go back to that then.
I think I'd still put my left shoe on first now. You just fall into routines and habits.
Any other weird ones that teammates might have?
I would say the manager's job. See, Arsene Wenger's very. You expect him to be in the dressing room before the game, but he kept you well away from the dressing room, which is really weird for managers. Most managers would be in there trying to get the players going, but what Wenger done during the week, he made sure everybody had a job to do. This is your job for the team. That's your job. That's your job, and you know exactly what to do when you're going into the game. But when we got to the hotel, we done his team meeting at the hotel, and then it'd be he disappears, and they come in the dressing room 2 minutes before kickoff, and say, like, come on, you know what to do. You go out there and do it. But it's all down to your players then, and you've got to have enough characters in the team. If you're not doing your job, someone's going to go. Tony Adams was my best mate. But if I wasn't doing my job in front of him, he would hammer me, and I'll be like, whoa, and I've got to sort myself out a little bit here. And that's what you need as well. You need characters in that team it's not always about the manager on the side, it's about players in the team to change things. If it's all going wrong on one side of the pitch, you've got to try and change that and stop that. And it's people organising people on the pitch. It's all just about the captain, it's about different parts of the pitch where you've got that. And partnerships as well in football, because it's, you don't win a game. If you've got 3 players who are not at it, you end up losing a game, definitely.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, people, when they look to invest in a company, look at the leadership and they want to see good leadership. Mark, would you say the same for whether it be a player coming to the club, whether it be, a coach coming to the club? It's important to have...
If a club come for you, or the agent phones you and said, right, Sheffield Wednesday want you, first of all, who's the manager? Yeah. What's the stadium? What the fans like? Yeah. What's it like playing there? I've played there before. So you add all these things up, and then you look at the team, and you think, right, when I got transferred, I was 30 and I looked at the team and I had Chris Waddle, David Hurst, Carlton Palmer, Chris Woods, Viv Anderson, and I looked and I thought, that's a pretty decent team. Palace, we were changing things around. Some younger players were coming in, And I thought, at my age, I've got to take this opportunity. I have to. And I went up and I spoke to the chairman, then spoke to the manager. So then you're thinking, right, this looks like a club on the up to me. Yeah. And Trevor Francis said, if you come here, I think you'll give us what we need to move it forward. And we ended up playing in the FA Cup final against Arsenal, the League Cup final against Arsenal. We finished 7th in Europe. It was a really good team. So I just went off. The chairman said, we've got some big ambitions to build this club. And the manager said, I want you to come in and we're going to get some others in. And then you think, right, for me, that was what I needed to hear. And I suppose in a way, that's leadership from the top.
Yeah. And anyone else add anything on that, importance of leadership at a club?
I think leadership is obviously huge. I mean, Mark's just mentioned about with regards to moving a club. I never moved club at all, but you want to be stable within an environment. You want to make sure you feel like it's being led in the right direction. David Moyes was a very stable leader at Everton Football Club for so many seasons. Bill Kenwright above it. There was money troubles, as there always seems to be at times throughout the Premier League, but you felt that it was being handled in the right way, and then you come down through the levels of what the club's trying to achieve. And you know, the manager you think is a safe pair of hands. You're looking around the dressing room and you're thinking these are good characters. There's some leaders. When I was young, I had the likes of David Weir, Kevin Campbell, Alan Stubbs, Duncan Ferguson were the senior players that, you know, the big characters, the big leaders within dressing room. And so that was easy to play alongside them. I think as you progress through your career and then you realise that you now need to step into leadership roles, I think that's a real awakening moment in your career, that now you need to pass on your experiences that you've learned from brilliant leaders that you've played alongside or worked with, and you need to now instill them in the next generation. And there's a lot of responsibility in that job, and you want to make sure that not only are you able to do that, that your contemporaries, those that are of a similar age, are able to do that with you. And it was a good role to take on. Yeah,
a very important one. Matt, how important is it to assess the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent before a match? Is that something you would do individually? Would it be with the coaches? How would that sort of work for you?
I think when I first started, that was just, you know, the manager sort of going through their team and telling you what their fullback or their style of play. But I think it's come on tremendously now. I actually really liked knowing who I was going to come up against and what their strengths were, what I was going to face. Yeah. And I think that was massively beneficial for me. I think you get clips of everything. You know, if someone will come, one of the analysts will come in with all of the DVD of everything that he's done in the past 3 or 4 games, and you sort of get to know, because you think, oh, when he first gets the ball, what does he do? Does he look to go forward? Does he look to come back? And you can run and shut them off at that way, or you can show him down the line. Is he not going to go forward? So you try and show him down the line, and he has to turn back. There's so many different things, but for me, I loved having all of that information, because I could use my strengths against his weaknesses, and you know, I hope not vice versa. So it would be, you know, massively beneficial, and I think that's a huge part of the game now. Everyone focuses on the opposition, how they're going to stop them, but also how they're going to counter-attack them, and I think that's a huge part of it.
How did you find it?
Data plays a huge part now. When in our day it didn't, now it does. They get told everything about crossing. Big Sam used to go mad if you shot from like 25, 30 yards, because the chances of scoring are very small. So he'd rather you recycle, go wide, cross it, and then try and score from the cross. But just the data, I mean, our boys get an A4 piece of paper, and it's got, like, obviously the pitch, the goalkeeper, and then it's got who they think will play and strengths and weaknesses, just little bits for you to read before the game. In our day, I'd say we knew all our opponents.
You should really know.
You know all your opponents, so you didn't need that information. But now, obviously, big influx of foreign players coming in and players coming up. So, everything's provided for the player. Half time, they'll get video analysis as well. Who did what on the move? I sit upstairs sometimes with the analysts, and as soon as a goal conceded, there's 4 of them. They wind back quickly, and then they just expose whose fault it was within seconds. Wow. And then the assistant gets on the radio and he goes, Eze didn't track the runner. The manager jumps out, Eze, track the runner. And like, already on the way back to the halfway line, they know whose fault it is. And
normally
likewise,
you wait until you see the video and you know it's coming. You're like,
used to get away with a lot more.
It was half time, wasn't it? It was half time. If the manager could remember. But the information now is, for me, information overload. There's just too much information.
Well, I was going to say,
I think it's individualised.
Positive clips all the time. Looking at players, you go, well, wait a minute.
I'm scared to death.
You can go in your shell a little bit. Some players.
Is there an argument where you played in some incredible Arsenal teams where we're winning a lot? Is there a point to be made? We should have just be focusing on ourselves. We don't need to
really look at the opposition.
I was going to say,
The only thing we did really was the set plays.
Yeah.
So you'd have a scout going to watch if it's Everton or whether it's Palace or West Ham. Go to watch how they set up for the set plays, and then we'll work on that on a Friday with the coaches. That's the only thing we really looked at. We didn't look at the opposition when they played, hardly. Well, I went to Middlesbrough and we did that. So it's a little bit different what sort of clubs you're at. The only time we did watch the opposition was the foreign games, Champions League, when you're playing Sparta Moscow. I couldn't tell you who plays for Sparta Moscow and what their strengths are, weaknesses. But really, as a footballer, and I used to love watching football anyway, I should be knowing exactly who my opposition is playing. If he's left foot, if he's quick, if he's he dwells on the ball a bit where I can nick it off him. You should be knowing that as a professional footballer. That's down to your job to know that yourself.
As well, towards the end of my career, things changed. I came in Monday morning and I walk in the club. I say, morning. One of the young players is there. He's in the first team. I said, see the game yesterday, and say it was Forest and Man United, and he'd say, no, what was the score? On a Monday, right? And we'd be playing either Forest or Man United the next game. And I'm astounded he didn't watch the game. Oh, we'll get the clips, won't we? We'll get the... You didn't watch the game. That's our next opponent. So I realised that things are changing towards the end of my career.
Do you think that's more commonplace now?
I just think our generation, we're in love. We absolutely still love the game, love it to bits.
It's crazy because years ago there was one game a week shown live that we'd all tune in for. Nobody wanted to miss it. We could tell you everything that happened in that game because how studious we were about watching football. But now every game is basically available in some format everywhere, and that's what surprises us. We'd sit around for any kind of football that we could watch at times, and now there's so much available, and some players don't watch it. So I can understand why managers do use data nowadays, and I can understand why they make sure that it's available for the players just to give them that, they hope that little bit of edge. Maybe they haven't studied their opposite number, maybe they haven't done what Ray's to make sure he knows everything about an opposite number, and knowing that maybe the fullback they're coming up against, first 20 minutes, all he likes to do is get tight, and if you can just play it around the corner, little 1-2s in the first 20 minutes, might give you an advantage that might get you an opener goal that back in a day years ago, it might have took you that 20 minutes just to figure, he keeps coming in here. Right, next time I'm going to do a 1-2 round. But you know that instantly now because of the data that's available to you, so it might give you an advantage.
Matt didn't want to see Stuart Pearce's.
But I think it's absolutely. But I think it's individual. Some players like having that. Some players it's too much. The overload. They're like and they switch off. Right? Footballers.
But it's finding what's right for you, though, isn't it? And routine and sticking to it and finding that edge.
That's experience.
In the dressing room before the game, it'd be the same. You have players have been quiet. You have people mucking about. Me and Ian Wright would be mucking about, having a laugh. You have people shouting, "Come on!" It's what's good for you to get you up for the game. But as soon as you walk down that tunnel, you've got to be focused and say, right, you know your job to do. Simple.
Let's move on to talking about loaning a player out and how it can be a benefit, I guess, for the player itself, obviously, but also the club. I mean, how do you feel about loans and how it can be beneficial, certainly for younger players anyway?
Well, I went on loan a couple of occasions, and it was exactly what I needed. I think it was what the club wanted to happen when I went out on loan, because it stepped my levels up. It made me just really... I felt when I was 17, 18 that I was ready for the first team. I was sent on loan to Carlisle, and where I did actually quite well, but that was League 2 football, the bottom of League 2 football. And although I did well, it made me realise the levels that I still needed to go up. Next season I went on loan to Derby County in the Championship, and again it was the bottom of the Championship, and I played well again. But suddenly you're making these steps and you're realising the differences between levels and the differences you have to get to, and you have to not just have a good game at that level, you have to be the best over a sustained period. And going outside the shell or the bubble of your own club into a different environment, to different levels. As I said, when I went to Carlisle, the players there were fighting for their careers to make sure that their families have, can be sustained long term. And I was a young kid who hadn't even thought that far ahead. And it just gives you a grounding in reality at times. As I said, went back to Derby, ended up in Everton's first team after the spell at Derby County, and and didn't look back, because not only had I proved to myself over a sustained run that I was better than the level and ready to step up, but I proved to the manager, and I think that was as important as anything else. And the manager at the time, David Moyes, wasn't ready to just throw me in to Everton's first team. He didn't seem to think I was ready, and I went out and proved to him that I was ready. And we had I think an 11 or 12 year period of him being my manager after that. So I think it's important. I think it's necessary at times, because there's not always the opportunity. Now, I don't think reserve team football is as competitive as it used to be to give you that next level. So it's natural to go out on loan and do that. So yeah, I think it's important in the modern game.
Yeah, well, it clearly worked really, really well for yourself. Matt, would you agree benefits of the loan system? Certainly from a club's perspective, it makes sense?
Well, absolutely. You look at Freddie Potts at West Ham this year. He's gone on loan to Wickham. He's had an outstanding year, and now he's going to come back, and he gives him another platform to go into pre-season and go, look, this is what I've done last year, I'm ready. But I think more important than that, it actually teaches young people, they actually grow up really quickly. You know, moving away from the club is a huge thing. He's probably had to, you know, or whoever it is, you have to move out, maybe go and stay in digs, or you grow up, you learn to cook, you learn to do stuff all by yourself. And I think that's a huge part of learning. I think you also totally agree with, you know, the reserve team. I think going and playing men's football, that's when it means something. I think if you look at when I first got into the first team at 17, you had like players, if you didn't win on the Saturday, players couldn't pay their mortgages on the end of the month, and it become like, if you don't track your runner, I'm letting you know, and you grow up really quickly. And I think that's a huge part of the loan system, a huge part of growing up and playing men's football. Yes, you can play the tippy-tappy 23s football, and it's all nice, and that is brilliant, because you get, you know, all your technique, and you get the way that the first team want to play. But actually going out and experiencing crowds, experiencing fans, experiencing that whole changing room of older kids that have been there and done it, and you've got a few of the youngsters, and everyone's trying to get into that team. I think it's massively beneficial, and then you can go on and you're a better player for it, and you've grown up as well. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. As senior pros at times in your career, how would you treat younger players coming into the dressing room, whether they would be on loan from other clubs? Would you choose it as a role to be a leader to them, or how would you go about it?
Pass on the knowledge towards the end of your career. I think you find that that's your role.
Yeah.
I mean, at Palace now, I am the loans manager. So we had 10 or 11 out this season.
Yeah.
We had a kid who went to St. Pauli in Germany. He did his cruciate after 3 games. And my heart sank for him. But he came back, had the operation, went back to St. Pauli, worked really hard. He came on in the last game of the season, provided the assist for the winning goal that made them champions, got promotion to the Bundesliga. Wow. So for him, he's missed virtually the season, but to talk to him all the time and encourage him, and then see him come back for the last game of the season and be part of the winning process was so sort of like satisfactory for me, for him. But we get the lads who went on loan to do a speech to the other under-21 players at the start of the season, and ask them, you pick 5 questions, we put subjects on the screen, and ask them to talk about it, doing laundry, doing cooking. Right, so one of them said, you've got to get an air fryer, they're brilliant there. So we do all these things and try and tell the younger ones. I said, do you think you can explain to the younger ones what it's like going on loan, or do you have to feel it and experience it? And they just said, you have to feel it.
Yeah.
So we had all sorts of levels. You know, Belgium, we had some in France, Germany, Scotland, but it's the making of them for me. Yeah. It's the making. You're not quite ready for the first team. You don't want to be on the bench all season. You don't get any minutes on the pitch. Yeah. So you need to play. It's playing the games. We had a kid called Jezrak Saki who went to Charlton 2 seasons ago, and he absolutely smashed it. 15 goals and 10 assists. And at Christmas, Patrick Vieira said, don't bring him back to send him 1 league higher. Don't do it. Just leave him where he is. Let him play. If he can play 40 games, that'd be brilliant. Yeah. He didn't kick on this year because he got injured, but you know he's. We've had a 19-year-old goalkeeper went to Colchester, and he turned 20 there. He was youngest goalkeeper in the league, and played 42 games.
Yeah, it's great.
At 19. So it's the way forward for the ones who are not quite ready for the first team.
You look at Everton at the moment. Arguably Everton's best player and biggest asset at the moment is Jared Branthwaite, who spent last season on loan at PSV in Holland. The whole season he went out. He'd made a mistake in one of his few Everton games. We signed him from Carlisle. He's at like 17, 18. He made a big mistake in a huge game. He got sent off at home to Brentford. And we lost we were 1-0 up, we lost the game 3-2, and that made us have to beat Crystal Palace in that home game, which we just stayed up. Such a huge, and the weight that could have been on that young man's shoulders after that. Yeah. So he was sent on loan for a whole season to PSV. Nobody really thought about him in that whole period. Came back and he was a new man. He was ready. Yeah. He's got this stature now. He stepped into the first team, and from the start of the season, of everyone not quite forgetting that he was still an Everton player, but having maybe just not realised he's now not only Everton's biggest asset, but he's also potentially on the plane in the Euros. Yeah. He's made that much of a stride this season, and that was all down to a season out of the spotlight, so to speak, out of the shadow of Everton and playing in Holland. It's been a brilliant
incredible investment by the club, for the club and for the player, for sure. Planning after football, Ray, how did you approach this? When did you start thinking about it?
Unforeseen circumstances.
I mean, I always say to young players now, probably, it's a little bit different in this era because the money they're earning now. But certainly back in, the 80s, 90s, you had to start playing at 30, really. Because very rarely you made it after 34, 35, if, especially in certain positions you played. So there's all different ways you can do it. Some players want to be a coach. You have to do the coaching badges. Some people want to do media. So you go into the media where, Leon does media and Brighty and a few of us do a bit of media stuff. Or you've got businesses, and businesses are very important. You've got to trust people around you. That's the most important thing. That you know that this guy is trying to do the best for you and not for himself. And that's whether it's relationships when you've known them for many, many years, these guys are looking after your money. But certainly it's very important now. Obviously the guys won't have pensions now. We used to have pension schemes and all that sort of stuff, and they probably do have pensions, but not the way the PFA used to do it and all that sort of stuff. But it is important now because they've got a lot of money. I probably invested a little bit too much in Spain, and I probably got a lot of it wrong because I instead of doing blocks of 3 or 4 buying at a time, I was trying to overdo it and buying 8 and 9s and lending off that one to lend that one. And big property crash, 2008, you lost a lot of properties. So you've got to be advised the right way, which is so important in business. And you've got to trust people, though. That's the most important thing, because there's a lot of people out there who can probably, you look like you're trusting them, but they're really having you over. So
Mark,
players have got to be careful.
You'd agree with
careful
that?
who you trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's had experiences about bad investments and people who take off with money. I'm the same. But the average wage now is what, £55,000-60,000 a week in the Premier League. The average. So we're talking 6 figures. I mean, I wrote a book a few years ago, and I added up all my contracts, and I worked out I earned £1.2 million. Like gross, which they earn a month now. Mo Salah and all those guys, £300,000 a week, they earn that a month. So my whole career, so you have to try and pick and choose who you invest with. Independent financial advisor is the way to go for me. And most agencies will be tied to financial advice. And it's the agent's responsibility to help the player to look to the future. And our chairman talks to the players about investments, and some of them do cryptocurrency and all this sort of thing. I'm not into all that sort. I don't know how they do it. But because they can afford to make mistakes, because their mistakes won't be like our mistakes where you're in trouble. These guys, they earn just so much money. So it's important. I think one guy who's with us, he's saved so much money because he doesn't do anything, doesn't go anywhere, but he said he doesn't know what the future holds. So he might get injured or something like that, but he's saved, like, I can't remember how much of his wages he saved. He's got it in his account. So you've got to be sensible, but also you've got to enjoy yourself as well. For sure. We haven't got a new car and go places and go on holiday. If you want to buy somewhere abroad, you can afford to service it. All these things, you can afford to do it. But like with the agents, they have a huge responsibility on making sure these young players invest rather than just spend. As soon as they get it, with cars and everything, and they will come and go. But you want to make sure at the end of your career you can have choices.
Matt and Leon, advice for sort of younger players and planning after football? What would you sort of say to them at the moment?
I think for me, I'm exactly the same as that. I think the financial advisor, I actually got one independent away from football agent. I thought that I think it would be more sensible for me. I just thought that would be the way, and then that was it. It's the way of thinking of being right. Well, when you get paid, half of that's gone. Half of that's got to go in savings or ISAs and everything like that. You can work it out. You don't have to be. You've got to enjoy yourself as well, but you have to realise that it doesn't last forever. I'm retired now. That initial first month where you don't get paid. You don't have routine, you don't have anything like that. It's like
shock.
What's happened? So you've got to have that, and it all starts being young. You've got to be able to start planning, and everything's now there. There's so much help, but in football, it's very much if you've done something. Who did you use? Oh yeah, cool. I'll do that. It's just ease. You got to look into it a bit more, and that's why you've got to have people that you trust. And you can go and speak to and say, right, do you think this is a good idea? Not sure. Okay, well, question mark that. Or do you think I should, go and do ISAs, go and do unit trusts, go and do pensions, go and do whatever. But then you can think outside the box. Nowadays, players have got so much that they can do with social media. They can have, they're like a brand now. They can have, commercial deals. They got sponsors on everything. They can do whatever they want now because they've got so much opportunity. But you just need to be careful with.
You've got to trust and have the right research, and you'd agree with all of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can invest. It doesn't matter whether you're a player at the top of the Premier League or you're a guy in the street. You can invest what you're earning. You can invest what you've got. What I would say to everybody is it's never too early to be thinking about what's next and thinking about your future and thinking about your time. Whether players want to do coaching badges. I did my coaching badges. I never ended up using them, but it was something there as an opportunity. I ended up doing media, invested in certain things, got a bit of property as well because, that was an easy thing to end up doing. And you just try and make sure that you cover all the bases as well. You're not just throwing your hat into one specific thing. So I'd say make sure you diversify. As
Key word. There you go.
Diversify your portfolio, and that's the key.
Would people talk about investments and that in the changing room, or was it quite a private sort of matter?
Things have changed. Things have changed. Years. I mean, in our day, not at all.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't talk about money. It's obviously seen as obscene. I mean, I roomed with Ian Wright for like 6 years. We never talked about money once, except for when he signed a new deal, and he said to me, "Tell the chairman you'll sign one. You'll sign one if he gives you a car." And, we never talked about money. I didn't know how much Ian earned. He didn't know how much I earned. And then we wouldn't talk about investment. I mean, we didn't have the spare cash to invest.
The only thing we knew about was the bonus scheme. Everybody knew that, didn't they? Everybody was trying to get more. Obviously, if we win the league, can we get this? And that's the only thing really you was interested in, because you shouldn't know other players' contracts. It's up to you to sign that contract. And whatever you sign, you should be happy with. And don't worry about what he's on. As long as he does his job and goes out and does his best he can for the club, then you should be worried about it.
Isn't it hard, Ray, at 24 to think about saving for retirement? You're in the middle of it. You're in the Premier League. You're going out. People recognise you. You're going for nice dinners. You're going to nice places on holiday. And someone says, "Oh, by the way, you need to look after the future." And you're thinking, I've got another 10 years to worry about that.
I remember that as a kid going in the first, because I had quite a few older pros in the change room, like 32, 33, and they'd be like, right, you've got to start thinking, I'm 19, what do I need to think about that for?
It comes up quick,
It goes like that.
It hunts you down quick.
It sneaks up.
So the importance of having a mentor?
I remember just pretty much what Matt said, and I was in the moment of thinking my career would last forever, probably mid-20s, and you can't see it. You can't see the end in sight. And David Weir and Lee Carsley said, whatever happens, you make sure you find your house and you pay the mortgage off minimum. So you're not worrying about that forever. And I thought, well, I've got ages to do that. But as silly as that seems, it's just a little box that you tick because you finish your career and suddenly that's not a bill you've got. And it's it seems minor, but every little bit of advice, if taken in the right way, can be very important. And other bits of advice to invest in this scheme, invest in that scheme. Some were successful, some weren't. Advice is you take with a pinch of salt. But if you follow the right advice, it can be very helpful.
No, for sure.
But you'll never earn the amount of money anywhere else than you earn playing football.
No, of course.
And And when that door closes,
Unless you're
it's a
Flamini.
huge drop.
He's
Flamini's the one.
Yeah.
He's the richest footballer ever.
Yeah, he's done incredibly well.
Tommy Graveston did all right as well.
Has he done what was he? Was he property or something? Was
Vegas, wasn't it?
Vegas.
Yeah, not done too bad for himself.
Let's talk about the Euros. I mean, England have got an incredible talent pool at the moment, young players and players that are currently in that first team. Mark, how do you feel heading into the Euros? Positive? Reckon we could go all the way?
Yeah, I mean, we've been close, haven't we? I mean,
Yeah.
this is Gareth's time to try and win it now. I think he'll probably go into club management afterwards, but he must feel that he's right there. And obviously, he's a former academy player at Palace and an apprentice when I was there. So, yeah, I kind of pull for him. But we will never have a better chance, and we've never had a better group of players.
Yeah. Ray, would you
I'm totally
agree with
agree.
that?
I mean, if you look at that midfield area, it's all about attack. You know, who do you leave out? I mean, you've got the English players now, who a lot of foreign guys are in their teams. They've been the standout players. Foden at Man City has been standout. Declan Rice has been unbelievable this year. Bellingham for Real Madrid has been a standout for Real Madrid, and you know, one of the biggest clubs. Harry Kane has been the best player. Saka's had a great season again. You've got Cole Palmer, who's been the best player. You know, so you've got all these sort of guys, and Bright is right. It's what the balance is. What balance is going to be very important. But I would certainly be going out all attack.
Yeah.
Because we've got too many talented players going forward. I don't think you can sit back in games. You've got to go out and on the front foot for me. Let's hope they can do it, because they've got a brilliant young squad who's going to be around for many years to come. Look, you know, some are aging, but the nucleus of the squad are very young, who could go on and dominate the world football for a few years.
Yeah, which we'd absolutely love. Matt, how you feel going into it? Reckon we can go all the way?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why we can't. I think Southgate, as much as I think he's a tournament manager, I think he's been brilliant the way he navigates through. He's not one that you're 1-0, 2-0 up and he's like, right, go and get 3 and 4. No, that's done. We move on to the next game. And I think we've mentioned about the squad, but I think we've got such a talented pool, but you've also got a lot of older experienced players that just like Kane and, you know, Kyle Walker. I mean, you know, he's had another outstanding season. I think they, in good areas where you've got a good experience, and I think, as you say, you've got to pick who you're going to play in that team. But anyone who plays is an incredible talent, and they all are performing at the top and the highest level. And I think they've all got that hunger. I think they've all got that hunger to succeed, because they know they can dominate for the next 10 years, because they have got a really, really talented squad. And it's a one hell of an opportunity. It really is.
It is. I think this will be crossed. Leon, gut feel, reckon England can do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about it. Really looking forward to it. But it's about finding the balance, isn't it? And about finding our best players at the best time. There's no point in playing any of our players out of position. You know, to get them all in the team. I think we've learned our lessons from that years ago. You might have to make some big decisions about leaving people out. I would say, because of the front players we've got, let them go play. Get as many of them as you can in their natural position and go sit back, get the defence to sit back and watch them go. But when you look at, you know, we got to the Euros final last time, and I think our midfield was Rice, Phillips and Mount. And potentially this time our midfield could be Foden, Bellingham and Rice. You know, Rice, Foden and Bellingham, and you're going, wow, you know, we've kicked on another level here since that last one. And we got to the final in the last one, and we seem to have kicked on. You had Saka, Kane and whoever's just picked on the left-hand side, and suddenly you think, why not? Why shouldn't we fancy ourselves to go and win it?
I think it's the media though, isn't it? It's us talking about it that's putting a bit more pressure on them.
We've already won, haven't we?
Think of the bench we'll have.
I know, it's incredible.
You're not leaving empty-handed. Look at that.
I
You've
do
got your
like
eToro
socks.
socks.
There you go. Put them in the collection.
I might
There
wear
you go.
that
You can never get too many socks.
I love a pair of socks.
There you go.
Mate.
Thank
It's
you
like
very
another
much.
accessory. You can wear this.
Yes. Thank you to Leon, Matt, Ray and Mark for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all on. Thank you very much.